Hello and welcome to my Legends and Legacy show. I am Breda McKeag. I have always been fascinated by inspirational people around the world, and now I am able to bring them directly to you. So listen, learn and get inspired. Hello and welcome to the series of Legends and Legacy. And boy, have I got a firecracker for you lot today. I am joined today by a woman in the States who is a fabulous, fabulous friend of mine who I met at a Lean In conference about 2 years ago. And she made such an impression on me that I decided I wanted to bring her on my Legends and Legacy show to share her life with you all and see, can she help you get somewhat inspired by her journey. Elis, it is so good to have you.
It's so wonderful to be here. I miss you.
I miss you too.
Oh.
So tell everybody about who you are and your background and that very impressive journey that you've been on in your past.
So the first thing I always start with is I was born in Puerto Rico. And my mom brought us to the States and when I was about 5, and I grew up in Connecticut. And at 18, I enlisted in the Army and spent 3 years active duty, spent a year in Korea. And then I joined the Army to see the world, but I ended up in Fort Dix, New Jersey. So for anyone that lives in the States knows that Fort Dix, New Jersey is about an hour from Connecticut. So that was the Army sending me to see the world. And then I got married, had my son, went to nursing school, and got commissioned in the Army Reserves for a little bit in the Nurse Corps. But I really wanted to come back on active duty. And that's how I got commissioned in the Air Force. And through the Air Force, I got my nurse practitioner. And then I got sent to Afghanistan and served with Army Special Forces. And came back, got promoted to Lieutenant Colonel, and then I retired in 2014. And
You deserve that salute. Lieutenant Colonel. No small feat.
Well, you know, the thing that's remarkable about that is that I went from being a private in the Army to an Air Force Lieutenant Colonel. And that's quite a journey. There's a lot of people that join the military and retire and never make that rank. So I'm really proud of that. That was, you know, that's probably my proudest professional accomplishment. And especially because my family I don't come from a military family. In fact, when I told my mom I was joining the Army, I enlisted in the Army, she says like, well, you've made your bed, now you're going to have to lay in it. And I was like, oh my God, what does that mean? You know, and the military by far has been my greatest professional accomplishment. So when I retired in 2014 from Colorado, I moved to Washington State, which is in the Pacific Northwest of the United States. And I took a job at a military hospital, worked there for 3 years. After 3 years, I went to another company and then I got laid off and then I was out of work for 6 months. And then I took a job with the Native Community Clinic. And after 15 months, that was another, you know, being let go. And after that, I said, why am I working for other people? So I decided to invest in a company and I started a business coaching company and that's what I'm doing now. And in the meantime, between all this, I do advocacy work for women and veterans and just, you know, just try to advocate and help and inspire others to not only utilize all their benefits, but to also learn more to stay healthy and for women to just get empowered on their life journey. So that's in a nutshell what I do. I'm the old 3 girls, and I was raised in a single household and of women. So, and have a son. And I have a son. I have a 31-year-old son.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. And you see, there's a lot in there that I actually didn't realize. So it's lovely to hear your story. And a Lieutenant Colonel, that's amazing stuff. Like, and I can only imagine the amount of expertise that you have now when you're coaching execs or business clients. I mean, your life has been more interesting than most people's lives put together, you know, so I can just imagine the skills and the experiences that you've picked up along all of that journey, you know, resilience, mental stamina. Yes. And I've seen loads of that from you. So you're one of the people that inspires me as well.
So. Well, you inspire me with all the work you do. So
We're all about inspiring others. So hopefully someone listening will take some inspiration from this video and maybe help to change their thoughts or form their thoughts in some other way, or push themselves a little harder, or just even to believe it's possible for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I come from very humble backgrounds, and to see where I am now in life has been a lot of hard work. This has not come easy, but it's to let people know that no matter what your circumstances are, you can move forward and you can rise above those circumstances, but you have to do the work. You can't stay stuck in that mindset that you don't want to take a risk, and you can't. Change is the only constant in our lives. So if you want to create change in your life, you have to take that leap of faith and that risk.
Yeah, and I should mention as well around the amount of women that you have inspired in the Lean In sense. So that Lean In network that you're involved in, like we probably aren't even aware, that of some of the inspiration people take from our stories. And
yeah.
I think everybody that's going through a journey of some kind that doesn't get it easy picks up some new lessons, and it's not failure, but it is a lesson. So you learn, you go. And if we can do anything to share the lessons that we've picked up the hard way with others to save them that bit of the journey, then awesome.
Yes,
Our job is done.
yes. Amen.
Yeah.
Yep. And I always say that failure is not the end. Failure is just a lesson. I think failure is only true failure if you don't learn the lesson from that event.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And so legacy is something that I have a bit of an obsession with.
Yes. Well, you know what's so funny, Breda?
Yeah.
My LLC is called Empowered Legacy Consulting.
No way.
Yes. So I love it. I love it that you are obsessed with legacy, because so am I.
Yeah, I am. And it's something that I was only introduced to really in the last number of years, where I started to think about my legacy. And when we talk legacies on this, it's not like what you leave behind you in terms of monetary value. It's actually, what impact are you going to have in the world while you are in it? And how is the world going to have changed in some small way because you existed? So, when I discovered that's really what legacy is, then I realized I didn't have one. And I realized I hadn't created one for myself. I didn't know what it was I wanted to leave in terms of my legacy. And then I realized that is sad. I don't want my life to be here, to have been here, to be in vain, or to have just come and go and not made some kind of a positive impact on the world or those around me. Yeah. So that's my legacy, and that's what drives my legacy. And I'm hoping that others watching this might start thinking about their legacy in those kind of terms, and see what they would like their legacy to be. So tell me about your legacy. What does a good legacy look like to you? What does that feel like?
I think I have several legacies I want to leave. And one of them is starting with my son, that he continues to move towards having a productive contribution to society, whatever that may be. I think I have another legacy towards the veterans community, to help veterans transition, to help them see the good in their military service, because I think a lot of times veterans transition from the military and they wonder what legacy are they leaving for themselves and their families, and how do they take all those lessons from the military and impart them and utilize them in the civilian sector in a good way. And I also want to leave a legacy to young Latina women, to realize that no matter what your circumstances were growing up, that you can continue to break the cycle, that you can, you need to represent, or there is representation in the world for us, and that if you don't see the road paved and you don't see someone that looks like you, then you be that person and create that legacy for yourself and that representation. Because I think representation matters. And I think that's why Vice President Harris, her nomination to become vice president became such a huge symbol of progress for women in the United States, and especially for women of color. So those are the legacies I want to leave. I want to feel like I left some inspiration to our communities, and in all the different communities that I represent.
Yeah, and I love that. And the fact that you mentioned there around, if you don't see someone who represents you, then you step into those shoes and you become that person who can inspire others. And you've done that, Elise. And I just think
Oh, thank
it's
you.
very important for our young people coming up, both guys and girls, that they see
Hmm.
both genders doing amazing things with their lives. Because imagine if everybody in the world was thinking about their legacy. Like,
Yeah.
the world would be an amazing place to live. And like, if we can do anything to inspire our young people, or even people
Hmm.
around our own generation, to look for their legacy, because you're only here once. So
Yes.
like, start today. It's not something that you should start at some point. You start today, wherever you
Hmm.
are in your journey, with whatever you have.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, I am obsessed with legacy, but I think it's a massive question for everybody, and it's one that when you find the answer to it, it drives you.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, I think it's a great question. I often ask clients what do you want if it was your last day on earth, what would you want people to say about you, and what have you contributed to the world? And, what are your greatest gifts? And that's a question that really throws people back a little bit, because they don't realize, one, the accomplishments they have, whether it's within their families or their professional worlds. But it really makes people stop and think. And I have a lot of clients say to me, let me get back to you on that. And I'm like, wow. So I stumped them, but it's true. It's, what legacy are you leaving behind? Because that's really, what's the purpose in life? What's your purpose in life?
Yeah, and that was the question I wanted to ask you next. Is around purpose. So
Mm-hmm.
you can read lots of articles on purpose and living a good life, and all the self-help books will tell you to look for your purpose. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of people don't really understand what a purpose is, and they don't really understand how you find one. So if
Mm-hmm.
when I find people who have found their purpose and they are on purpose, then I ask them, tell us a bit about that. How did you find your purpose? What was it that drove you to your purpose? And what's that like when you get to live it out?
It's funny that you ask this, because I will be very vulnerable and say that I still feel like I'm looking, or I'm finding my purpose at my age. But there was one time in particular, I remember, when I was on active duty and I was working in the operating room, and I realized that I miss working with women. And that's how that led me to become a nurse practitioner in women's health. And I think when I was working in that space on a day-to-day basis, it's really when I felt like I was really living my purpose, because I was empowering women to take charge of their health, and empowering them with knowledge, and giving them a space to talk about whatever issues they had in reference to their health and their relationships, and helping them, empower them to move forward. And I think that is one purpose that still is, I'm very passionate about. I may have taken it a little bit in a different way, but I think the one thing that gets me excited and out of bed in the morning is talking to women about the reproductive health and the things that they can do to control that. Because I think a lot of us grow up and our parents don't talk to us about it, and we go to the doctors and no one really talks to us about it, and they don't really realize that you can control this part of your health, and you have full control of it, and these are the different options that you can utilize. So I will say that at 54, I'm still kind of finding, still looking for that specific purpose. I always know it's helping people and inspiring people, and showing people that resiliency and perseverance and change are all part of life. But I think now in this new chapter, I find myself, I'm still looking for that specific purpose in life. So that I will have to get back to you.
What I've seen of you, Elise, is you've already found some of it, because I've seen you inspire people. I've seen you want to motivate and empower people, and you do that without knowing it. I would suggest.
It's funny, because a few years ago, I had some of the young airmen that I worked with when I was in the OR, and they're all doing great things now. And a lot of them went to nursing school and went to nurse practitioner school. And it's funny, because they've reached out to me back on Facebook, and they said, I don't think you realize how much you inspired me. And that is like, wow, because I wasn't completely intentional for me. I was just trying to live my best life and trying to give back and be that servant leader. So it's always nice when people that you don't expect, that you don't realize are watching you and are being inspired by you, come back and tell you that, because it's just nice to get that affirmation that okay, I am making a difference. It may be a small difference, but you're still making a difference.
Absolutely. And some of those differences changed someone's life, that's for sure. You know, so I think we underestimate the impact that we can have on people. It's only, as you say, when someone comes to you and tells you, you know, that happened to me one day. A guy came up to me and said that his business was going really well because of a quote I had told him 5 years ago. I was like, oh God, what have I said? And he said, I told
What
him.
was that quote?
I was having a conversation with him, and he said that he was telling me what he was worried about, this business he was setting up and what could go wrong and all of the issues he was running into. And I said to him, where there's a will, there's a way. And obviously that hit the spot for that fella that day. And that was exactly what he needed, because that's what he kept going on for years until he met me again and told me. So
I love that.
Realize the impact of our words and our actions on others. So, you know, and again, that's a little sort of takeaway for anybody watching this. What are your words and your actions? What were they today? What did you do today that you maybe could have done in a different way that would have given someone that little sort of that penny drop that they needed, or that wee bit of encouragement that they needed, or a little bit of acknowledgement or something like that, because it absolutely makes all the difference.
Yeah. And you know, a lot of times we don't realize that we may be the only person in that person's life that's actually encouraging them or giving them a sense of empowerment. And there's, you know, it could be that, you know, they just don't have anyone in their circle of influence that actually gives them that encouragement. So you just really don't know when you said like those words of affirmation that you say out loud and that other people hear you, that they may inspire them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I wanted to ask you then, I was thinking about wisdom nuggets, which is what I call them. They're little pieces of life advice, I suppose, that what wisdom nuggets do you wish that you came across earlier in your life? Because I certainly have loads, and I make tickets to do with them.
This is why I have gray hair.
So I'm wondering, what wisdom nuggets would you have loved to have had earlier in your life?
You know, I think earlier in life is the belief in myself that I can accomplish anything. And I think I've always known that, but it's taken me up to this point to really realize that. But also that the storm never lasts forever. So no matter what storm you're going through, there's always light at the end of the tunnel, and that rainbow will eventually come up. And you just have to keep moving forward. You can't let your perceived failures make you feel like that's the end of your journey, because it's generally those failures that actually are creating those stepping stones to success. And you know, and sometimes even for as positive as I am, I still have to remind myself of that, because I'm still human, you know, and I still have bad days. And it's just that remembering this too shall pass, this too shall pass, this too shall pass. And that storm is going, this storm that never lasts forever. And I think that's something throughout my life, where all the challenges that I've had, whether in my military career in Afghanistan, you know, going through a divorce, raising my child, that my son that has epilepsy, that I always remember, and even starting a business, it's always that constant, okay, this too shall pass, just keep moving forward, you know, failing forward, as other people have said.
Yeah. And I suppose my mom used to say to me, just keep going, you won't get anything sitting. And I used to think, oh God. But I think somehow that went in. So my wee wisdom nugget is that no matter what's happening, just keep going and keep going, keep going, and have your eye on the prize, which is my next question to you. How do you plan your future? Because I love vision boards, and when I'm saying about keeping your eye on the prize, I always find that when my vision is clear enough and big enough and exciting me enough, that whilst things may be less than rosy at times in my life, I will keep going through all of this adversity that I'm in, and I'll still be driving myself towards that vision. And I think it's something to do with the mind, that when it sees the pictures and the words, and you get emotionally engaged with that vision and how that would feel for you, then nothing will stop you. And
No.
I'm wondering, do you do any kind of vision boards, or what way do you plan your future?
I have had periods in my life where visualization has become extremely powerful. So, writing your goals down and visualizing the vision that you have for your future, and, positive affirmations. I am a successful businesswoman. I am financially free. And saying those things to myself on a daily basis are things that, I stick to, but also realizing too, sometimes you just have to live in the present and enjoy that moment right there that you have, because tomorrow's never promised. And I think a lot of us have realized that with COVID this year, that sometimes we just have to sit down and embrace and appreciate those little moments in life that you get that you may not get tomorrow. We may not wake up tomorrow. So as much as we talk about the future and visualization and having those positive goals, but also realizing that having those positive moments of day-to-day appreciation for the present, it's important as well.
Yeah. And to that point, I think every day we wake up, it's not perfect, but we're still here, So whilst it may feel less than perfect, who cares about perfect? Sometimes perfect is the enemy of done. So
yes,
you wake up, you've been given another day to do whatever it is you're going to do in it. And I'm lethal around diary planning and making sure that there are pieces in my day that will bring me happiness and joy.
Yes.
And this has been today.
Yes, today you are my gift today. I was so excited to see you today.
And you were mine. And I think this kind of, driven scheduling, you got to schedule the stuff in that makes you happy. And this I knew was in my diary. So when I woke up this morning, I straight away thought, it's Monday. Mondays are hard. But I'm meeting Elis later, right? So every one of us needs to do that for ourselves. We need to schedule and prioritize those little bits that make us tick or that inspire us, and we know that it gives us energy. So, figure out what it is that gives you energy, and make sure there's some of that in the diary. And it won't happen unless you put it in the diary. So don't worry about, what you don't have. Figure out what it is you could create and get it moving in some small way to make sure that there's joy in your life every day. Whether we're in COVID or not, that still applies. So
it's living in gratitude. And sometimes I think we forget when we're having a bad day or when we're not meeting those goals. We get stuck in that, why didn't this happen? But everything happens in its time. And I think having a sense of gratitude is so, so important. Like this weekend, I watched The White Tiger, which is an Indian film, and watching the poverty that's going on in India. And I sat around in my house, in my living room, and I just said, thank you, God, for the blessings that I have, because I am so much better off than, a good portion of the world. And just staying in that mindset of gratitude, especially when you're kind of getting depressed or getting down, or because, you haven't seen your family for a year. Like I haven't seen my family, y'all lives on the East Coast. I haven't seen my family in a year. Because of COVID, and running a business is not for the faint of heart. There's good days and bad days. There's how and lows. But I think remembering, okay, what can I be grateful for today? And when I look at my gratitude list, it's a lot longer than my list of things that are happening in my life at that particular time.
Yeah, and living in gratitude, I think, is the antidote to sadness, because you can't be sad if you're living in gratitude. Because your mind can't manage the two at the same time. So if I'm sad, and first of all, it's awareness, spotting that sad feeling, and then I trace it back to, where did that come from? Why am I sad? And then back into some belief somewhere in the subconscious mind that has grown legs. And the fastest way to cut it is introduce positive thoughts, or producing thoughts of gratitude. And the self-talk is so important.
Oh, yes.
Like I've coached a few people with a lot of the work that I've done on myself around self-mastery. And
Mm-hmm.
and the self-talk was always step one for them. And they were amazed at how they were talking to themselves. Because when were we ever told to listen to that,
Yeah.
or even aware of how our subconscious creates all of these thoughts and we run them every day.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's phenomenal. And we're coming towards the end of our interview, and I wanted to ask you, Elis, about your self-talk. What way do you talk to yourself, or is there anything that you use on yourself that kind of helps you or spurs you on in life? And whilst you're thinking of yours, I'll tell them mine. Put her on the
Yes.
spot.
Tell me yours. Tell me yours first. I want to hear yours.
Yeah, mine is just two words, very, very simple, but it's why not? And the reason that I started using them is because now that I've learned how, our subconscious works, and we have a
Mm-hmm.
negativity bias, and now I realize that my old self-beliefs used to talk me out of a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
and I just counteract them with why not? And I can
Mm-hmm.
never find a reason why not, because usually the reason that we're talking ourselves out of something is fear.
Yes.
And when you counteract that with your own thoughts, you've got to recognize them first. You've got to spot yourself coming up with excuses and reasons not to do stuff. You've got to be able to see that,
Yes.
identify that first, and then ask yourself, why not? Why would you
Yes.
not do this thing? If you've had an idea or you've seen an opportunity to do something,
Mm-hmm.
why would you not do it? And all you'll find in there is that it was fear was
Mm-hmm.
at play, and you need to ditch fear. So
Yeah.
I use why not on myself so regularly that I keep saying yes to things.
Yes.
And I don't know what they are half time.
You know what? It's so funny you say that. I think that you and I have the same disease because I say yes to everything. And that's what I'm known for in my circle of friends. Oh, Elise says yes to everything, because I say yes to everything because you don't know what the opportunity is going to lead to. But I'm starting to realize that I need to start being a little bit more calculating before I say yes to everything. Yes.
What I
Yes.
want people doing is letting fear talk them out
Yeah.
of opportunities.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that have had amazing ideas and have done nothing with them because they've
Yes.
managed to talk themselves out of them.
Yeah.
So the world loses out. The world is the one that loses out, and every one of us in it, because that person's
Mm-hmm.
skills and their talents and their natural ability has
Yeah.
not got anywhere. So I want everybody challenging themselves. Why not? Why
Yeah.
not you? If you have an idea and you think it could be as a part of your purpose, why would you not do it? Do not allow fear to kill those ideas. You were saying earlier to me before we hit record on this about the potential of our brains, that we're only using maybe a quarter of the potential
Mm-hmm.
of our brains. And I just don't want to see all of that skill, capability, talent
Yeah.
wasted. That's no good to the graveyard. It's
Yeah.
only good while we are here. So why
Yeah.
not is mine. Now, Elise, over to you.
Oh gosh, I think positive affirmations, and I always say yes because you never know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So I think, there's been many times when opportunities come to me and I'm like, why do they want to talk to me or have me be on this panel? And then I realize when I get into those opportunities that it was me not realizing the value of my voice and the value of my experience. Because to me, I'm still that young Puerto Rican girl that is, hasn't finished her education, or, that young lieutenant in the Army or Air Force that didn't really know anything. And now at my age, I'm like, wait a minute, I have a lot of experience and I have a lot of life wisdom. And sometimes when I hear myself talk, when I'm doing public speaking or I'm doing panels, I'm like, I still have, I have a lot to offer, and sometimes you just really have to kind of take a step back because everyone has value to add to the world. But you don't know it if you don't say yes or you don't speak up. And I'm a huge believer in storytelling because I think storytelling is extremely powerful. But one of the things that I do a lot of is like, I am successful. I am going to be a successful businesswoman. I am financially free. And just having those positive affirmations for myself and my family. Positive affirmation I had for my son was, he is seizure free. He is going to be successful. He will continue, JJ will continue to contribute to the world. I am loved. I am beautiful. I am remarkable. And the remarkable, I am remarkable campaign is a huge thing that I do. And just having those positive affirmations, especially on days that you're not really feeling it, being like, okay, I am, and have those positive talks, because like you said earlier, sometimes, especially as women, we have such negative talks within ourselves. And we would never talk to our friend like that. We would never talk to another coworker like that. So why do we do that to ourselves? So I have to say, I'm not too much of a negative speaker, because I do believe in myself. But sometimes even I need that cheerleading. I need people to, my friends and my circle of influence to applaud me and be like, you can do this. You've been successful this whole time. Why wouldn't you be successful in this new venture?
Yeah.
So having those positive affirmations, I think, are extremely important.
Yeah. Brilliant advice. So everybody watching this has to try positive affirmations. And unfortunately, so many people won't even know what positive affirmations are.
Yes.
And they won't have had any experience of them, nor will they understand the value that they will do to their mind. And until you really get into all of your own mind and how you work and how you operate, you won't understand that you need to put positive thoughts in there. And it's all science at the end of the day. If you don't put positive affirmations in there, or positive thoughts, or positive self-talk, then your negativity bias gets crazy, and it runs riot, and it results in you feeling down. But so many people are not taught any of this, and they don't know that. So they're feeling down, and they're feeling helpless because they don't know how to fix it. So what me and Elis want you to do is try some affirmations. It may not fix everything, but it certainly will help. It helps me. I use them as well, Elis. So look, it has been fabulous having you on here. I have so enjoyed this.
I've enjoyed it too. You're always a pleasure to talk to.
So are you. And hopefully lots of people have taken nuggets, takeaways, bits of advice from this, or at least have given them something to think about. And before we wrap up, what I want to do is I want you to give them your contact details, because I know you do a lot of business and executive coaching. And now that we're all on Zoom, we can do that from wherever we are. And lots of people in Ireland or in Europe or wherever they watch this, and the States where you are, may benefit from your experience, your skills, and your expertise. So tell them how they find you.
Probably the easiest way is on LinkedIn. And my name's Elis, E-L-I-S, and then Salamone, S-A-L-A-M-O-N-E. That's probably the easiest way to reach out to me. It's on LinkedIn. And I think I'm the only Elis Salamone on LinkedIn, so it should be fairly easy to find me.
So the one and only Elis. Don't come much more unique, Elis.
Oh, well, you're so sweet. Thank you.
Okay, so look, everybody that has watched this, we hope you've enjoyed it. We've enjoyed doing it. If you think that you know somebody who might benefit from watching or listening to this, please do share it with them, and give us some feedback on our content and our nuggets and our little pieces of wisdom and advice. We'd love to hear from you. Elis, we will talk again soon. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.